In this ArcMap demonstration, we're going to look at the tools in the toolbar. Alright, first tool here is the zoom tool. Alright, if we click on it, and then we can come in and box in on areas that we want to zoom into. We can just hover it in one spot and click, and click again and we'll continue to zoom in. We can use the zoom out tool. Again, we can click on one spot, click again, and we continue to zoom out. You can use the boxing feature when you're zooming out. I find it confusing and don't like using it. There's the pan tool, which is kind of like crawling along the ground. You just click on a spot, hold down with the left mouse key, and then drag your using the mouse, drag the map in the direction you want to go. Again, click and hold down with the left mouse key and drag it in the direction you want to move it. So that's panning. If I click this, it will zoom to the full extent of the database. You can see we have 3 townships here. Next is a fixed zoom in. So if I click that, we zoom in by a certain amount. Click it again, we zoom in further, and we have a fixed zoom out. We click it and we zoom out a bit. Click it again, we zoom out. We have this one, which will take you back to the previous extent. Alright, and if you've done some zooming, you can keep on moving back in time in regards to your previous extents. You can also move forward in the previous extents as well. Then we have a tool here that is select features tool. If I hit this drop down menu there, we can select by rectangle, we can select by polygon, we select by lasso, select by circle, and select by line. So it's usually set by default to rectangle, so we'll leave that on here. So I can come click that tool, click the tool, not the toolbar, and you see my cursor has changed, and I can click on a feature here and it should select it. I'll just hit pause here for a minute. Okay, so the problem is that the layer I'm clicking on isn't selectable. So if I actually go to this icon here in the table of contents, it shows me what layers are selectable. Currently only block is, so I'm going to make all the others selectable. Well, we'll just make the union polygon ones selectable. Oh, make them. I said I'll make the plot as well. Alright, so now we'll go back to normal table of contents, and now if I click on something, it'll select that feature. And if I use a box instead of clicking on one spot, any feature that touches that box will be selected. Again, we can select in different ways. We can select by drawing a polygon. So we can draw a shape here. And again, anything that touches that shape will end up selected. We can select by a circle, line, so those are similar to polygon and rectangle. You just draw a circle or a line. But we'll look at lasso. And so here you kind of just draw a circular or a lasso, and anything that touches it is selected. If you don't want things to be selected anymore, you can just clear your selection. Later on, it become more. You'll see the purpose of selecting features. But right now, we're just showing you the tools in the toolbar. Alright, this one here is select elements. We can select elements like this text here, which can be moved. Alright, I'm going to undo that because I don't really want it to move. We can use the identify tool to click on features in layers. If we click on a particular feature, this identify window pops open, and it tells us all about that feature we just clicked on. If you have more than one layer, you can choose exactly what layer it's going to pull the information out of if you would like. So that's the identify tool. You just click on a number of features. If we click on this lake here, we can see that its land ID is 900, which means it's water. Right? It has perimeter area, so all the attributes from the attribute table show up for that particular feature. Alright, so we'll shut that off for now, and next I'm gonna open a different, for the next feature I'm gonna open a different map document that I have here, because this map document contains a number of hyperlinks, and the hyperlink tool is right here. So if I select that hyperlink tool, you'll see that the features here that have hyperlinks will have a blue dot on them. And let me just pan here. It seems that those items do not have. We'll just click on the hyperlink tool again. You see there's now blue dots indicating that these features have hyperlinks. And what I've done is I've hyperlinked pictures to the activities that occur at camp. So here's one of a stream survey. If we go up here, here's some gill netting. Click on one here. Whoops. Yeah. It's because there's a number of hyperlinks on one point. We can pick exactly which hyperlink we're after. If I just choose one and pick jump, it shows me the Burns cabin at Tramping Lake. So you can hyperlink things other than photographs. You can hyperlink Word documents, Excel spreadsheets. I believe you can even hyperlink you to what stuff on the web. So there's a number of different. If it's some type of digital document or piece of digital information, you can hyperlink to it basically. So we're going to turn off this map document now. I'm not going to bother saving any changes. So that was the hyperlink tool. You'll see that the hyperlink tool isn't available here because this map document does not have contain any hyperlinks. You have to build those. So if we look here, we have the HTML pop-up. Okay, the HTML pop-up tool is grayed out right now. It's not available to us. What we need to do is we have to go into the layers, under properties, and under HTML pop-up tab, click show content for this layer using HTML pop-up tool. I think by default it's set this way, but I think this is an old map document maybe, and that's why it wasn't currently set to that. So I'm gonna pause this and set all the other layers the same. Okay, so now that we have that set, I'm just going to zoom in here a bit. This is this map actually shows the region surveys that have been surveyed to date. And so we now have this HTML pop-up tool, and it works similar to the identify tool in that you click on an object and it brings up information about that feature. You can click on more than one feature and have a number of these showing at different times. And we'll click on one of the surveys and see what pops up there. So in this case, these two cases we're pulling up survey data. In this case we're pulling up something from the Union Polygon field. The Union Polygon layer, sorry. So again, it works like the identify tool, but again, it uses HTML. I don't totally understand this tool. It's new to ArcMap with version 10, but the documentation basically says that you can start to pull in HTML information as well. So I guess you could somehow have a website pop up using this tool. So again, I don't know the tool too much, but again, you can start to work with HTML using it. we'll just close those out. Next tool is the measure tool. Alright, by default it's usually set for a lineal measure, so you can just click. If we want to know how far it is between these two regen blocks, we just click, starting at one end, drag a line to the other, click again, and then we get our measurement up in the box here, which tells us the length of the measurement. You can change the measurement. Well, just a minute, we'll just stop the measurement first. You can change from planar to some other types of measurement. I don't think you'll ever use any other thing than planar. You can measure distance. You can set your units. Here it's set to kilometers. If you wanted meters, you could do that, or other units measure. And you can set that it's going to be used for area. We did a lineal measure here. In a minute we're going to do a area measurement. So it's set to hectares. So if I pick the polygon tool here, okay, so you draw a polygon, and in the box there you get an area measurement for that. It also gives you the perimeter. I'll just double click to end that. Okay, there's another tool here. It says measure a feature tool. So if we come down here and use it and click on a feature, it'll give me the measurement for that feature. In this case, this polygon, this lake here, gives me a perimeter of 2.36 kilometers and an area of 35.1 hectares. So again, you can click on features and get measurements. Right now we have, I've also previously turned on this show sum totals. So if we start now, we get a measurement here again of that first polygon. We can then add the area of this polygon to it. We've now added the one, as you see in the top there, 1.54 to the original 2.6 or so, and we got 3.9. So if we can add another area for this polygon to it, and we add 2.2 to the previous 4 or so, and we're now up to 6. So if you want to sum a number of things, especially in this case where you have a lake that is actually sum of two polygons here on the right and left, and you wanted the entire area of that lake, this sum feature is quite handy. So that's the measure tool. Next tool is the find. Okay, so you could use it to find locations. I've done this earlier. I don't know what the problem was, but for whatever reason it pulled up different areas. Like I typed in the Paw and Cranberry Portage, Snow Lake, Manitoba, and it found these areas on the map, but they didn't coincide with the map features I have built into the map, so in regards to where they were in the world. So there's something funny there. I don't know if one's working in a different coordinate system than the other or what, but it didn't seem to work so good. You can do a linear reference in regards to routes. Well, we don't have any data that's routable in here, so if you're working with different types of data types, you might be able to use that. But we can definitely use it for features. We're going to type in 900, which is a land ID, and do a find, and it's going to search for features in the data sets here that have 900. And then if we want to actually see where those are, we can click on them, and I guess I better zoom out to the full extent of the data here first. Now that I've done that, I'll click on that feature, and you'll see it kind of draw crosshairs, and it flashed up in here where the feature was. Click another feature, and it finds it for me. It just flashes it right. It's up here. Alright, so there's some ways to find features if you want to find a particular feature. Alright, so we'll close that tool. Next here is find a route tool. Again, we don't really have routable data here, but again, I did use this tool earlier where I added stops, the Paw, and I think it was Flin Flon. It drew me a route, told me how far apart they were, where to make turns. So it's using the data, a built-in data set that it's accessing. And again, it doesn't seem to, and then it draws that route on the map, and it doesn't seem to correspond again with the map features there. So again, just like with the find tool, there's something a little bit different in regards to, again, what coordinate system or something that the tool are operating in. Again, we really isn't something we're going to be using, but the tool is there. Next one here is XY. So we can go to XY and we can type in a Y coordinate and a X coordinate, the X coordinate being the horizontal or the easting, the Y being the northing or the vertical. So we'll type in some coordinates here. We'll type in a easting of 433 500 tab and 60645 500 for the northing, and then we can pan to that spot. Alright, so pans to it. We can also zoom to it. Let's go back to the previous zoom extent. We can get it to flash that point. We can get it to add an actual point there. We can get it to add a point with X and Y labeled. We can ask it to add a callout there. We can use recent here. It'll give us the numbers that we recently, or points we recently went to. You can also hit the drop down menu here and change to some other types of measurement units instead of meters. Meter seems to work good for me for regards to UTM, but if I choose UTM here, it gives me this, and I'm not even sure exactly how you would type it in, if you have to type the zone in and then the northing and the easting, but if you want, you can play with that yourself. I'll just stick with using the meters, which works fine. Okay, so I'm going to close that now. Next tool here we have here is a timeline, and before I do that, I'm just going to zoom into the data a bit. Alright, and I previously set up a timeline here, and I'm going to open that time slider window, and you can see we're currently at 2011. We have all these areas surveyed. Now, this can only work with data sets that have some timestamp. And here we have the date that all these different areas were surveyed. So I'm going to rewind it or step back in time here, and you'll see that areas are disappearing because back at those dates, those areas weren't surveyed yet. I can just, so we're back to 2002, and the only area that was surveyed then is right here. So I'm going to hit play, and you'll see the time slider bar is going to jump through the years, and as we go through the years, you'll see the areas that were surveyed those years. So I'm going to hit play, and it plays, and it starts adding these areas as we move through time. Alright, so that's a tool. You got to do a little bit of work to set that up, but I'm just going to show you today how that tool works. The other thing is a create view window. You can click on that. You can come in here and box an area, and it's going to create a view of that area you boxed. And it's just another window you can have open. So now when I change where I've zoomed in here, this view stays the same. I can have more than one view set at a time. So let's create another one, and I don't know, we'll just pick this area here. You can, once you have these views, you can choose to zoom in or zoom out on these things by using the tools that are built into the viewer. So you can have a number of these going. You can also change the type of window they are. So we're going to change from viewer to magnifier. And now what happens when I take that map and hover over an area, it's going to magnify it. So wherever the crosshairs are, it magnifies it for me, that area. So again, you can have it set as a magnifier, or you can have it as just a view. Another way to turn these on is to go to these windows, but so you have a magnifier and a viewer, but you also have this thing called overview. And I'm going to click overview, and then in that overview window, okay, to show how this overview window looks, or how it functions, we're going to have to go in and change the properties of it. So I'm going to right mouse click on it and go to properties. And then instead of this individual township, which it's set to, I'm going to choose the block dataset, which covers a lot more of the map, and hit OK. So now you can see the block dataset, which shows all the areas that have been regen surveyed, the regen blocks. I just pull this over to the side a little, and this square right here indicates where on there we're actually looking at on this map. So if I kind of change where it is, what area is being shown in the map display, you can see that square is now moved in that overview. We can resize this overview as well if we want. And we could, if we zoom in, the square is going to change. So let's just zoom into this one individual regen block here. And we can now see that the area we're looking at is here in relation to all the other regen areas. So that's how you can use that overview tool. Again, you can't access it from the viewer window tool here. You have to come up in here to Windows and choose overview. Again, the magnifier and the viewer, which you can access from the toolbar, can also be accessed up here. So that's it for the toolbar. We've covered everything.